A lawsuit accusing relatives of the president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints of sex abuse. The King James Version of the Bible has been removed from multiple Davis District schools.
A pair of high-profile elected officials took trips to the World Cup.
A West Jordan man accused of assaulting police during the Capitol insurrection was acquitted today of a similar charge here in Utah.
A packed meeting hosted by the president from Southern Utah University after controversy erupts surrounding the announcement of their commencement speaker, LDS church leader Jeffrey R. Holland.
Listen, I have to ask you something that I know that you have heard about, and if I don't ask it, people will wonder why I didn't. And that is, in the strength of your religion, the whole business about blacks not being allowed to be priests in the Mormon religion.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me how you feel about it and what the explanation for that is, would you, Donnie?
You bet. Well, I'm not an authority on the subject, but I will mention that we are not prejudiced people. We offer more, I think, than any other religion to the black person. And if you really want a good explanation and someone who has an authority about it, you should really talk to the general authorities of our church.
Mm-hmm.
They are not allowed to hold the priesthood in this right now, and I don't know why, but that's the way the Lord wants it.
We shall now be pleased to hear from Ronald E. Pullman of the First Quorum of the 70.
My remarks this morning are directed primarily to those of you who have accepted the gospel and are members of the church, and to those of you who may be seriously contemplating such acceptance and membership. Both the gospel of Jesus Christ and the church of Jesus Christ are true and divine. However, there is a distinction between them which is significant, and it is very important that this distinction be understood. And there is an essential relationship between them that is significant and very important.
Good evening. New tonight, explosive allegations against a church leader.
First Presidency and the Quorum of the 12 Apostles are covering a sexual predator that lives in your ward. His name is Joseph Bishop.
Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
Disturbing allegations tonight against a former mayor of Bountiful, also a former bishop in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Carl Johnson is accused of the aggravated sexual abuse of multiple children for more than a decade.
For the first time, we have an idea now of how much the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints Big Investment Fund performed over the course of a year.
That fund is called Ensign Peak Advisors, and Fox 13 News investigative reporter Nate Carlisle found the public document showing how many billions of dollars it gained in 2020.
Over the last year, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has been more forthcoming about how it's investing tithing money. This latest filing with the Securities and Exchange Commission shows that despite the economic downturn of the pandemic, the church's big investment fund made money. This filing with the SEC shows the holdings of Ensign Peak Advisors at the end of 2020. When added all up, it shows the fund gained more than $6 billion in one of the most difficult financial years in American history.
Boys, in the next few minutes, you're going to hear some really grown-up words.
He is a prominent figure in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints with no background in health education.
So why does he get asked to go to public schools to talk to boys about puberty? And how good is he?
Here's Fox 13 News investigative reporter Nate Carlisle.
Maybe instead of saying, why did the blacks have to wait until 1978? Maybe what we should be asking is, why did the whites and other races have to wait until 1829?
Tonight, a betrayal of trust after a registered sex offender becomes a church leader in southern Minnesota.
The case of Michael Davis and details that you will hear for the first time tonight are raising troubling questions for the Mormon Church.
Welcome back to Live at Noon. It is 12:31. A new report posted by our content sharing partners at the Salt Lake Tribune in collaboration with ProPublica says Utah makes welfare so hard to get, some feel that they have to join or in some ways participate in activities of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in order to get aid.
We're learning that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is facing accusations of tax evasion in Australia. The accusations come from an investigation by 2 Australian publications.
Today, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is responding to a lawsuit filed by a member of the Huntsman family who's accusing the church of fraud. In an exclusive local interview, the sex therapist excommunicated by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
This next story contains graphic details and could be disturbing to some viewers. It was betrayal beyond description. The woman sexually abused for years by her father when she was a little girl is now suing the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. She says her mother turned to the church for help when she caught her husband sexually assaulting their daughter when she was only 5 years old. But the abuse never stopped.
According to authorities, this undercover sting started in July of last year. Detectives said they posed as underage children and prostitutes in order to catch these people. 51-year-old David Moss, a former lieutenant for St. George Police and a bishop with the Mormon Church, and
An investigation by the Associated Press claims an abuse helpline used by lay leaders of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was used to cover up a case of sexual abuse.
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has donated thousands of shares of water to the Great Salt Lake.
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints owns over 1.7 million acres, making it the 5th largest landowner privately in the nation.
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints says it supports the Respect for Marriage Act in the Senate, which includes amendments that protect religious freedom. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and its investment arm will pay a fine totaling $5 million for failing to disclose investment holdings.
For many years, the Mormon Church has been stockpiling $1 to $2 billion of surplus tithing into a reserve of the reserves inside a 501c3 nonprofit called Ensign Peak Advisors. This year, 2019, Ensign Peak Advisors grew past $100 billion in market-based, non-real estate allocated capital with approximately $44 billion in U.S. stocks, $12 billion more internationally, $27 billion in bonds, $6 billion in private equity, $10 billion in hybrid instruments, $3 billion in portfolio cash, and another $4 billion in treasury cash. These investments have been producing annual returns of close to 7%. That means that Ensign Peak Advisors grows by $7 billion each year from capital gains, dividends, interest, etc., plus another $1 to $2 billion each year from excess tithing. All church operations consume between $5 and $6 billion per year of tithing. It is officially, finally true that the Mormon Church could tell every member in the world to completely stop paying tithing now and forever, and it could continue to fund every current program in full without drawing down on the reserves. In other words, Ensign Peak Advisors would continue to grow. This is true in large part because, as a 501c3, Ensign Peak Advisors has enjoyed a tax-exempt status. It has garnered about $20 billion in tax breaks in total from the American public. All 501c3s, regardless of their classification or type, have an expectation of doing something religious, educational, or charitable, something in the public good, with their assets from time to time. Ensign Peak Advisors has never spent even one dime on anything religious, educational, or charitable in 22 years since it was incorporated in September 1997, which is 1 month after Times Magazine wrote its cover story entitled Mormons, Inc., exposing some of the Mormon Church's assets at the time. Ensign Peak Advisors has no tax-exempt purpose. It has literally no liability stream, no calls for capital, and no plans for using the money at all. The mandate given by the First Presidency and the presiding bishopric is to only focus on financial growth. EPA employees are told that the money will be used after the second coming of Jesus Christ or during Armageddon right before he would come again. The IRS would not view these as legitimate tax-exempt purposes.
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is losing a record number of its membership. A new report quotes an LDS General Authority who says more members are falling away today than any time in the past 175 years. ABC4's Brian Carlson shows us how LDS faithful are reacting tonight.
At meetings like General Conference, Utahns may be used to seeing members of the LDS Church show up in record numbers. But according to a recent Reuters article citing LDS General Authority Marlon K. Jensen, for the church as a whole, the record is going in a different direction. Elder Jensen told the news outlet times have changed and attrition has accelerated in the last 5 or 10 years. Some members we talked to say they see the faithful leaving.
I'm from Chile, and down there a lot of people just stop attending. They take it a little bit too casual.
So how bad is it getting? Right now, the LDS Church has over 14 million members across the world. But according to the article, sociologists estimate active membership could be as few as only 5 million.
Through federal filings, we confirmed the numbers on 12 funds, each with more than one web domain owned by the LDS Church. The funds control about $31.9 billion in investments.
Stamen, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints faces new lawsuits accusing leaders of covering up decades of sexual abuse among Boy Scout troops.
Yeah, Bob Kelly, when we reached out to the church for clarification on this policy, a spokesperson told us the reason they're asking leaders to reach out is so they can tell them no. Quote, that's the whole point, is that local leaders shouldn't get involved in any type of court case. We've spoken to attorneys, we've spoken to members of the church, and we've spoken to former members of the church who say that statement causes them concern about obstruction of justice.
Members of the Salt Lake Equal Rights Movement are standing against a recent speech made by an apostle of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Jeffrey R. Holland recently spoke at Brigham Young University, where he made comments about the LGBTQ community.
To my Mormon friends, my Latter-day Saint friends, think of him as Captain Moroni.
This morning, new texts reveal the involvement Utah Senator Mike Lee had in efforts to contest the results of the 2020 election.
John Franke has more on what we're learning about what happened shortly after President Biden was declared the winner.
Yeah, those messages are between Senator Mike Lee and then President Trump's Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows. They begin on November 7th, just after the 2020 election, and last through January 4th, 2 days before the insurrection at the nation's capital. Now, on December 8th, according to those messages obtained by CNN, Senator Lee suggests that certain states could appoint alternate electoral college delegates contrary to the verified election results in those states like Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. He writes, quote, if a very small handful of states were to have their legislatures appoint alternative slates of delegates, there could be a path.
You may know them from that knock at your door, or these sprawling iconic temples, or maybe they're nostalgic TV commercials. Even the Broadway parody, The Book of Mormon, was a runaway hit. With almost 17 million members worldwide and 200,000 in Canada, the Mormon Church isn't the world's biggest religion, but it is one of the wealthiest.
The Mormon Church will have you to believe that it's a religion that dabbles in business. They are a business dabbling in religion.
People want to bang on the church and say, well, you've got all that money in reserve. Yeah, and it's a good idea for other people to follow that example.
Why does God, a God of miracles, require all this money?
But has the church built its wealth on the backs of taxpayers in Canada and around the world?
There's live questions about whether the church has engaged in wide-scale tax avoidance or illegal wide-scale tax evasion.
We have been mischaracterized since 1830. That's always been the case. I don't think it will ever go away.
Do you think that this is a case of fraud?
Of course I do. Absolutely, it's fraud.
Utah lawmaker is accused of advising a bishop in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints not to report a member's confession about sexually abusing his daughters.
Attorney General Sean Reyes coming to you from the great state of Utah here in the Capitol, and I've got a really pressing issue that I need to talk to you about. I'm ashamed of the fact that the vast majority of the demand for child sex trafficking comes from Americans, that comes from our countrymen. And we have businesses that are coming in, terrific sponsors. They come in and not only donate funds.
In the District Court of the 7th Judicial District of the State of Idaho, in and for the County of Fremont, State of Idaho plaintiff versus Lori Noreen Ballo, aka Lori Noreen Daybell, defendant, case number CR 22211624. Verdict. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn to try the above entitled action for our verdict, unanimously answer the questions submitted to us as follows. Question number 1. In regards to count 1 of the amended indictment, is Lori Noreen Ballo not guilty or guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Tylee Ryan and grand theft by deception? Answer, guilty. Question number 2. In regards to count 2 of the amended indictment, is Lori Noreen Ballo not guilty or guilty of first-degree murder of Tylee Ryan? Answer, guilty. Question number 3. In regards to count 3 of the amended indictment, is Lori Noreen Ballo not guilty or guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Joshua Jackson Ballo and grand theft by deception? Answer, guilty. Question number 4. In regards to count 4, the amended indictment, is Lori Noreen Ballo not guilty or guilty of first-degree murder of Joshua Jackson Ballo? Answer, guilty. Question number 5. In regards to count 5 of the amended indictment, is Lori Noreen Ballo not guilty or guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Tammy Daybell? Answer, guilty. Question number 6. In regards to count 7 of the amended indictment, is Lori Noreen Ballo not guilty or guilty of grand theft? Answer, guilty. Dated this 12th day of May, 2023, signed by the presiding officer.
Concerns marriage. Marriage is central to the purpose of mortal life and what follows. We are children of a loving Heavenly Father who created us with the capacity to follow His commandments to multiply and replenish the earth. That power of creation is one of the most precious gifts we have in mortal life. But central to that gift is the law of chastity, the commandment that our powers of procreation be expressed only within marriage between a man and a woman. That commandment is central to the gospel of Jesus Christ. That reality explains why we have different values and refrain from certain behaviors that seem common among many around us. Our attitude toward the definition of marriage and toward marriage itself are examples of that. Leaders of the Church of Jesus Christ are uniquely concerned about recent changes in the nature and extent of marriage in the United States. This includes the increasing tendency of U.S. citizens, including some worthy young Latter-day Saint men and women, to postpone marriage. To demonstrate that tendency, let us look at 2 charts on marriage. While these figures are for the United States, they represent a worldwide problem. The first chart shows the significant reduction in the percent of citizens in the United States who have ever married. In the last 30 years, this percent drops 8 to 9 percentage points for both men and women. Marriage is clearly on the decline in the United States. This second chart shows a related increase in the age of marriage of young Latter-day Saints. This portrays the average age of Latter-day Saint men and women at the time of their first marriage. It shows an increase of about 5 years for both men and women. Consider what young adult Latter-day Saints miss when their marriages are intentionally delayed for a significant period. Opportunities lost and blessings postponed. This means delays in the important personal growth that occurs in the relationship between a man and a woman, husband and wife, growth in such qualities as sacrifice and humility. It means decreased opportunities to work together to build the kingdom of God. And most important, it means fewer children born to grow up with the blessings of the gospel. You know all of this, and you need to know that your leaders know that many of our singles are not marrying sooner
and a major city yet to be determined in Russia. And Shanghai, People's Republic of China.
Quite miraculous, really, through the gift and power of God. We have a lot of suggestions about how it was done. We know that they had a table like this. We know they had the golden plates covered usually, and Joseph used these the Urim and Thummim seer stones in the hat, and it was easier for him to see the light when he'd take that position.
This is not the church of Joseph Smith.
Now do you understand why I can't put every single bit of information in every single video? You need to trust that I know what I'm talking about. All of those clips I know about. And I know more that wasn't able to be put in here. And so I don't want to see ex-Mormons sending me arguments, linking me to ex-Mormon videos about how they think Joseph Smith is a fraud and a fake. This is not Joseph Smith's church. Learning of the Jews. You too are under condemnation for not understanding in the learning of the Jews, not just Mormons.